Hello and welcome to episode 2, series 2 of the Sean McGuinness podcast. I'm going to keep getting these podcast episodes as consistently as possible. But yes, as I said the last time, because we're so busy with our face-to-face business, you might think it's pretty easy just to get on here and waffle your arse off for 45 minutes, but you actually do need to be fresh. Takes a bit of preparation. Mightn't look like it looking at me, but it's very hard to do it when you're chatting with clients all day. Your brain's just fried, so you kind of need to schedule out a few hours. I even had a nap, cold shower, coffee. I need to get proper prepared, otherwise it just sounds like shite, and I've tried that before and I've had to delete it and waste everyone's time. So yes, bear with me, but hopefully in today's episode the content will make up for it, quality over quantity and all that. That's what I tell girls anyway. So today's episode, what we're going to look at, a big problem people have, and I'm trying to get these episodes based around kind of struggles people have, common struggles, is working out consistently. How to get in a proper workout routine, regime, and stick to it for a long freaking time, because that's when results happen. It's not going to happen in 12 weeks, 20 weeks. You might lose a little bit of weight, but or gain a bit of muscle or whatever your goal is. But if ideally you need years upon years, months upon months, years upon years to not only get results but to keep those results going. Because yeah, you can train for a few weeks, get good results, but pointless then if you fall out of your routine and then just go back to normal. So we know, looking at people from anecdotally and from what like studies will say, regular activity, gym work is needed to maintain your results. And the people that maintain the results the best, obviously it may seem very obvious, work out regularly. Because yes, nutrition, that's going to play a massive factor, but burning calories is as well. And if someone's tried to lose weight, let's just use weight loss as the goal. Yes, you can definitely just change your diet around and lose fat, but there's going to be a stage where if your activity is very low, it's going to be almost super hard to maintain those results if you're on lower calories without having activity in there to burn more. And we know then from muscle building perspective or muscle retention perspective, if your goal is fat loss, we need to be in the gym stimulating muscle to make sure we hold on to that muscle, we get that tight toned looking body from an aesthetic visual point of view, but also then from a health point of view. And then also as we get older, you lose muscle every year. Which then cracks me up when people go, I just don't want to get bulky. And I'm like, after 35, you literally your muscles fading away. So there's very little risk of you just starting training and getting muscle. So our goal then is retention a lot of the time. And then you mightn't think about it now, but if you look at it from a longevity point of view, you want to live a good quality life. Muscle mass, the three main things from a longevity point of view are going to be BMI, so basically just means staying within a healthy body fat percentage range, your VO2 max, which is just a sign of your aerobic fitness, and then muscle mass. And interestingly enough, the muscle mass is going to feed into the other two, because if you lose muscle, if we see older people that have lost muscle, they start to look very frail, and then because they don't have enough muscle to actually carry them around, they're going to start to lose their fitness because they can't move quick enough to basically stimulate their aerobic system. Then not only are their muscles getting deconditioned, but then their heart's gotten deconditioned, and then that's going to feed into probably a higher BMI, because then because you can't move around, you're going to gain weight. So they've even seen, they have linked now, if you see an older person who takes very short steps, they're probably doing it because they don't feel very stable when they walk, coming from a place where they don't have enough strength to actually propel themselves forward each footstep, each rep. They take shorter steps then, and they've linked short steps by a certain measurement to you don't have much time left, unfortunately. So there's a lot of shit going on. You're going to look good, you're going to live longer, and also you need it to be mentally, emotionally healthy, but to actually live a good quality life forever and to stay around and all that kind of good stuff, which most people don't think about on a daily basis because you're too busy fucking paying just paying the rent. But hopefully, if I point it out, it gives you another reason to actively try to form a routine, which we're going to chat about today, because it's all well and good me telling you how the benefits of working out, which most people know, but the actual sticking to it is the hard bit. And I hate these people that, like, unfortunately, a lot of trainers don't understand where most general pod people are coming from, because they just love the gym and they can't understand people that don't want to train. Ironically, most trainers live with their parents and then don't understand proper responsibility, and then probably struggle in ways where other gen pod people might not. So yeah, even a few of the gyms I was at, I used to wreck me head where trainers who would be into the fitness, and fair play to them, but to the point where they're so narcissistic thinking about their own training, they can't empathetically think about where other people are coming from, and they go, oh, these people are motivated, I want to train serious clients. And I just used to shake my head like, fucking hell. Your whole job is to help these people work that out. Our clients are brilliant in ways that we're terrible, usually financially. Most trainers look great, but they put everything else probably falling apart, myself included. So yes, it's all about spinning plates, and what you like doing. If you're probably more likely to do, if you don't like doing it, it's going to be a bit more of a struggle, like anything. But today we're going to look at ways, little hacks, if you will, of doing that. So there's a few things here. Oh yeah, and that's where I was coming from. It's not podcast episode. It's not going to be a point where, well, if you need to want it enough to train, and then you'll train, and all that kind of fucking shite that we hear. Let's look at it from a habitual perspective, from a behavioral perspective. So firstly, we know when someone starts off, whether it's a new gym, whether it's in like a new program routine, whether it's even a new trainer, there's going to be a sense of novelty at the start, and novelty is linked to motivation. So we've all been there where you may have joined the gym in the first few weeks, and it's a problem I've had when I've more so online, when I've signed online clients up, and it's great at the start when you're motivated and enthusiastic, and that's a normal pattern. It goes up, but again, what comes up must come down. What goes up must come down. So that goes back to normal pretty quick. So first of all, we must expect that our motivation is going to drop. It's always a seesaw. So it's the same like any kind of quote unquote addictive thing. It's gonna really hike your dopamine up short term, but unfortunately, the higher that goes, it's going to be an equal crash from that. Whether it's a come down from drugs, from any kind of addictive behavior in there. But even if we're super motivated, or even, I was actually chatting to someone right before who has the post-holiday blues, and you get that massive level of excitement before, and he just rang me, he's on his way home now. And it's the same thing, like you're going to get that crash. Working out's no different, and that's why now there's a time and place definitely for like motivate. I do like the motivational videos on YouTube where it might be like, I don't know, the popular guys these days, Jocko Willink or Jordan Peterson or The Rock or like someone like that, giving you mad and it's motivation music, and yeah, that's gonna temporarily really motivate you, but probably a few minutes after, it's going to actually have the opposite effect, because your dopamine that's going to come back down, and then you might have tried to use that to hype yourself up to go to the gym, but then a few minutes after, it might actually be counterproductive, because it's going to result in you being less motivated. So that's something to think about, and just it was kind of a revelation when I was thinking about this. So what goes up must come down. You must expect that motivation to drop after a few weeks. And what had happened before, I could usually prep people very good when I coach them face to face, a little bit easier, but online was a challenge, because people would just go missing then when their motivation dropped, and it's normally easier if I can chat to someone face to face to explain that, but that was definitely a challenge. I've done the same with, like, when I've bought a workout plan, and the first few sessions you go, it's great and it's brilliant, but yeah, after a while it's going to be just like another thing that you're doing, and the excitement's going to be gone. I think that just shocks people a little bit when that excitement and novelty goes, but firstly you need to align your expectations that that's going to happen. So that's the first thing, because if your expectations are you're going to be super motivated for the whole period of you working out forever, let me just burst your bubble right here, right now. That is never going to happen. Went to football training last night, and I've been lucky enough to be playing sports my whole life, and let me tell you, the gap between how much you don't want to go training before you go versus like how great you feel probably halfway through and after, it's madness. And anyone that knows like the struggle to sometimes get to the gym versus how great you feel after, it's such a massive discrepancy. So that's always going to happen. So first of all, you need to align your expectations, because if your expectations are out of whack, I think that's when you get a shock. And that's what's that old quote? Unhappiness is the gap between your expectations and reality. So the more they're misaligned, the more maybe the higher your rate of failure, first of all. So that's that. Secondly, we must look at expectations in regards to the results we're going to get, because your brain is going to do an activity, but after a while, if you are not achieving the goal of the behavior is going to be very hard. If you're not achieving said goal, after a while, your brain's going to be like, well, we're not releasing any dopamine here. Now, this is very reductionist neuroscience, so I'm just trying to get the point across. If you're not going to achieve your goal, your brain's going to be like, well, why are we doing this? And I'm sure it relates back to like the hard work. But if the hard work's not being rewarded, after a while, you need to your brain's gonna be thinking, well, what are we giving this effort for with no rate of return in regards to some kind of stimulation of dopamine and reward. For people starting off, what I've seen, if you're really beginner, intermediate, or let's just say you don't really have your habits aligned from a nutritional point of view, from an activity point of view, maybe from a lifestyle point of view, that you might set your main goal is weight loss, okay? But if you're starting training and you're just like, let's say like 80% of people are going to train, they're probably not coming from a great place of habits. That's why they're in the gym. That's why they're trying to start back. So sometimes setting your goal from a weight loss goal may not be the best thing. Okay, you might have that as the ultimate outcome of why you're doing it, but there needs to be other metrics that you can base your habits on, kind of more from like a process point of view. That when you hit those kind of mini goals, down the line, that's going to lose weight. But the weight loss, you can't be going in every week sometimes saying, okay, my goal is to lose a kilo, even though you've never trained before or you're just getting back into it. Your nutrition's not aligned with you achieving a consistent calorie deficit. You might be sleeping, you might be stressed over your head, you might have kids, other responsibilities. It might be a great time to try change everything. And as I've said before, you shouldn't really try to change anything to start. So if someone's starting, a lot of time, I've said to clients, look, Okay, I know you're finding your nutrition hard. I know you find all this other stuff hard. That's cool. Let's just set your goal as achieving whatever that person is achievable in regard, it finds achievable in regards to working out. So if they go, look, how many days training would be achievable for you that you could do no matter what? Whether it's at the gym, if something comes up, you could probably just do like a bodyweight work at home. And they might say to me, 3 times a week is now. I'm going to aim for 5, and I'll say no, just aim for 3. Would that be? Yeah, that's very easy. That's very easy. Sweet. Our goal at the start may not be a weight loss goal. It might just be to string together a few weeks, a few months of 3 days a week training. Because again, we know habits probably take, I don't know, let's say a few months to kind of get in stone and get a bit more automatic. So we can't really be thinking about doing our 3 sessions, overhauling our nutrition. It might just be too much of a stress in combination with life stresses. And if it's too much of a stress, that will throw you off. So let's just focus on our workout goals. That's our main thing. Eventually then we can look at rates of weight loss. We can look at that when all the pieces of the puzzle come together. Now that's great. This is perfect. So we've just set, let's just say, train 3 days a week. However, that's our process goal, because eventually all these processes of changing nutrition, changing our training, increasing activity, decreasing our calories, that eventually going to lead to the outcome. But like we said, it might just be hard on its own setting that as a goal. So we can do, well, first of all, we can do it, but to cement a little bit more. So we've set that as the goal. Now, when we hit that goal each week, that's kind of a little bit of a dopamine release in itself, because when we achieve goals, no matter what the goal outcome is, you set that. Again, comes back to the expectations. When we hit that, we feel good. Okay, so we've stepped away from a weight loss outcome straight away, and we know we need to work out to lose weight and to keep it off forever. So let's just set this as a goal. That's going to be a little bit dopamine release. That's going to positively reinforce those habits. Now, what we can also do, and that's where, to go on a little bit tangent, just as I think of it, Joel Jameson talks about how CrossFit have done very well, where their goal was just to complete the workout of a day. So the goal, it wasn't even from a weekly point of view, it was just from a daily point of view, just to achieve that workout. So you're not even focused on anything else. You're not focused, I'm trying to lose a kilo this week, had a bad weekend. Your goal is just to go in, do the workout, finish the workout, tick it off. And and then after a while, you feel good because you've achieved that. You've set that as your goal, where most people don't really set working out as their goal. They set the weight loss as their goal. And yeah, it's probably not the best point of view. So CrossFit has done that very well. So you're only thinking about one workout at a time. And that's the same what most people should do when trying to ingrain that as a habit. We also know then, if we can look at some other metrics in regards to training, we know they're going to improve as we start to get more consistent. So how about we take some metrics at the start? Let's take, and this is why you may look at like fitness testing for general pop people that aren't in sports teams. So if you could run, if you're going to achieve some running, you may do like, let's say like a 12 minute run, or like a 3K run, and let's just get a time for that to see what it is. You might even do it on like an assault bike to get some kind of cardiovascular metric at the start before you begin. So let's just say jump on the assault bike and do 12 minutes and see how many meters you get, or jump on the rower if you're going to add some rowing into your training. Or let's just say get on a cardio machine and pick a level, pick a resistance, and just do that for 10 minutes. And you may monitor your heart rate, because you know after a few weeks you'll be able to do the same resistance and same level, but your heart rate will be way lower. So you could see visually that metric that your fitness has got better. You could retest your 3K run. You could retest a certain amount of meterage on the rower, or a certain amount of meterage on the assault bike for time. monitoring your heart rate and the distance and time, and you know those things are going to improve. So if you retest that every month, excellent. That's like another stimulation of dopamine, that wow, I'm getting better, I'm achieving stuff, rather than like, well, as I said, what most people do, will always come back to, they're actually going very good, but then they step on the scales and they feel demotivated, even though they've just gone from doing no training at all to then consistently train 3 days a week, but they're measuring the wrong metric for that point in time where they're currently at. We know you could also go get like a checkup before you start your training, and the doctor could get your blood pressure, get a basic blood panel like your cholesterol, your triglycerides, HbA. What's that one? Information HbA. I'm gone. My brain's gone blank. HA1C. Oh my god. I'll put it up after this. It'll come back to me in a second. Basically, all your blood glucose, all these measures of inflammation, and your cardiovascular health or cardiovascular fitness, because we know they're going to improve as you go. We know your blood pressure is probably going to come down as you start to get fitter. Your resting heart rate will come down, so that's where like Fitbits are great, because you can see that. I've even used that word on my clients. That test, HbA1c. Yeah. That's just like a longer term look at your blood glucose levels, like your metabolic fitness, which we know in most cases that's going to improve if you start training. Fitbits are great because, as I said, you can see your resting heart rate. One of the cool things, one of my clients, where we've added in running, and we have a massive graph, Ebony, who technically actually has a high BMI, but we're training, we're getting that down, but her resting heart rate's like 50, 49, like she's in a like a high athletic resting heart rate, and we've graphed her resting heart rate over a few months. So when the scales may stall, if that's our point of progress at that point in time, we can still look back at all these other things where she's getting fitter, so that in itself will positively reinforce and give you that little bit of quote unquote motivation that you need to keep doing what you're doing. What other metrics do I have here? Blood markers, resting heart, blood pressure. Obviously then as you get stronger, the weights are going to go up in the gym, so you may do like a basic, you could you could measure maybe the amount of bodyweight squats you do in a minute. When you first begin, you may video your movement before you begin, like you video your squats, because you know as you get stronger and more mobile, your technique's going to improve, so you're going to move better. But most people don't think about these things. That's why one of the biggest regrets I've had when I first started coaching is not doing a video assessment of like some basic movement patterns to show them as they go, like the rate of progress. And I go, fuck, didn't realize like, oh, I used to move like that. And all these things that you can positively reinforce. You may do how many push-ups you can do. If you can do chin-ups, you may do how many chin-ups you can do. Make sure you're writing down your weights in the gym, because we know as you get stronger, that's going to improve. You may look at certain niggles or injuries and take note of that before you begin, because we know, without getting a specific prognosis of injuries, and we know if someone begins weight training, that in itself is going to have like a pain relieving effect on most things, and an analgesic effect. And we know as someone gets stronger and they move more, their pain will probably get better. Yeah, they'll probably get better. As they get healthier, the pain's going to get better too. All these things that tie into to niggles and injuries and stuff as well. And yes, so there's loads there before you begin, and you may retest that every 4 to 6 weeks, or like when your motivation's dropping a little bit, or before you begin a new phase, 4 to 6 week phase of program, or if you did like a 12-week program, you might retest that. So there's lots there to do. Video it, write it down, and see how you're improving. The more you can see how you're getting better versus just a fucking number on a scale, the better you're going to be to positively reinforce that. And I just wrote this quote down. I'm going to find who I referenced it. The act of setting a goal releases the neurotransmitter dopamine and motivates you to take productive action. So that's at the start. A popular study published in Nature noted that dopamine not only spikes when we set a goal for ourselves, but also when we're close to achieving that goal. The bigger the reward, the more powerful the spike. And so the way it works with dopamine, again from my reductionist view, knowledge / view of neuroscience, at the start you're setting goals and you're getting a little dopamine release when you achieve them. And the same with like habits, like let's say quote unquote addictive habits. You're stressed and you're stressed, you eat processed food, that makes you feel better, and then that releases dopamine and makes you feel less stressed. But over time, the dopamine goes from being released after the behavior, and when it gets automatic, it gets released before the behavior. So when you're thinking about doing it, you're getting a release of dopamine. So for example, you may, let's say, you get addicted to cocaine. Okay, so you're doing it, you're getting a release of dopamine, but over time you get the dopamine release in the pursuit of doing that habit. So I've listened to some podcasts and they talk about like the best high is when they're going to get the drugs. I suppose it's like that with I'm going to use the example of Christmas Day because I'm still a big kid. When you get that massive like anticipatory spike in dopamine, like you're just dying for it, and that excitement, and like we said at the start, you get a massive crash after that. If you follow me on social media, you've realised I haven't posted as much, and I'm going to do a podcast on why I've cut back on my social media use a little bit. And that's because, for the simple reason, I was posting a lot, and social media is made to be massively addictive, and it's designed by the top neuroscientists in the world, so they obviously fucking know what they're doing. Getting paid the big bucks by Zuckerberg, and so say I was doing really good posts, not saying I do, but say I would say there's one where people liked, and you get heaps of dopamine, heaps of likes, and heaps of new follows. You get that dopamine release, and you see that little red thing light up. And then during, let's say, COVID, when we went all online, and we were doing very well, and we were getting lots of inquiries and lots of people signing up, and you're getting these massive amounts of dopamine release. So I would wake up in the morning and I would get a massive dopamine release in anticipation of checking my phone. That's when I knew. I was like, I knew at the time, but it's a double-edged sword. You're kind of playing with fire, because I needed to use that for my business. But that's when I knew. I was like, Jesus Christ. And I've managed to get that completely off now. But as I said, it still comes back, like if I start posting regularly. So I need to find a way. My goal is to find, I suppose it's just like eating processed food in moderation. The food is not really made to be eaten in moderation. It's made to be addictive, and social media is definitely the same. So I'm just currently figuring out a way to do that without becoming a fucking social media junkie again, because there's actually real life out there. Zuckerberg and all this metaverse, go do one. That is, and what's even worse, it's bad enough our gym in the city is beside like the Gucci store and the Louis Vuitton store. It's this massive row of all these designer shops. Now, it's bad enough when I see people, especially people that can't afford it, lining up for these shops, and just to be seen outside and to carry the bag around. And don't get me wrong, from a psychology point of view, I love the marketing behind that, but we're all suckers falling for it. You buy like a little fucking belt in Louis Vuitton, and they give you this massive suitcase bag, and you walk around with that all day, and you go and do your groceries with it just to show off. That's bad enough. But what I've heard now is people spending money to buy designer clothes for their character in the metaverse. If that doesn't make you want to just like get up and leave the earth, I don't know what it is. So that's another one of kind of why I was like, I need to get out of here. Obviously, brilliant. I've really I have culled a lot of what I see. So what I see on it is only very useful stuff. But yeah, as I said, I need to find out where. I need to hire someone eventually to post, so I don't get that. So leave that with me. So that's what I was saying. So when we set ourselves the goal and release what may seem as you get the dopamine release over time, when you achieve that goal and you're positive reinforcing, eventually you may get to the stage that this is all tying back to you enjoying training, and you're enjoying training so much that you actually get that dopamine release before training, because not only are you achieving your goals, not only are you probably know how great it feels from an endorphin point of view, as I said, versus you didn't hit your weight loss goal that week, and then you're demotivated, and of course you don't want to go to the gym, you don't want to put in all that effort if you're not seeing the results from it. So I thought that was very interesting. And just a little quote here, and again, expectations. I don't know why I didn't put the author by it. I know I'm having reference or nightmares back at university when you just pick some random reference and hope that the person does notice. I know I'm plagiarizing this, so nobody sue me, but I'm sure if you typed this in, you would find who wrote it. Expectations are what we think will happen, while reality is what actually transpires. While we hope these two will match up, they often don't. This disparity of expectations versus reality can often lead to feelings of discontent and happiness. Exactly what happens with training, and obviously you can use that in any part of your life. I've joked before with training, because people expect stuff to happen so soon. But like, if we think of business, we know business is like, if you're going to start a business, it's going to take years upon years. Whereas if people use the approach they use with their weight loss in business, they basically fucking expect to go to work and become a millionaire overnight. Like, after putting in a few shifts. Like, it doesn't work that way. You have to build it up. So disappointment is the gap between expectation and reality. So when we can align those close together, we know what to expect, and then we're gonna kind of achieve. So that is from an expectation and metrics point of view. So think of ways you can take the metrics into account. Do that even if you're training regularly. Make sure you have metrics that you can use to retest. Now, also what I have here is just stuff where I've talked about before, where you can look at like habit stacking, and this is why sometimes it's actually, is it easier to train after work? I don't know, mate. Sometimes it can be easier to train after work, because habit stacking is basically you're stacking what you're going to do onto an already automatic behavior. So it's kind of just like, think of your routine at night, where you have all these habits stacked together. So you probably finish your dinner, you might watch TV, you might then go brush your teeth, you might wash your face, put your pajamas on, and then you get into bed. It's so easy because all these habits are stacked onto each other. So the when one habit finishes, that's the trigger to engage in the other habit. So we can use this to our advantage, because if you're training after work, let's say, or even at lunchtime, there's a certain time you finish work, or you finish work for lunch, and then you go to the gym, and that's the trigger. Where it can be harder in the morning because people go, oh yeah, I'm going to train in the morning, but they get up. They don't really have a chain of events that they can tie the habit onto. So so use that to your advantage. Use habits that are already there to be, rather than saying I'm going to train at 3:15 every day. No, think about what habit you can add the act of working out onto. So if it's in the morning, you might say, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to drink my coffee, and then after I finish my coffee, that's my trigger to go to the gym. Or I don't know, you go out to get your coffee in a cafe, and then that's your trigger. Try to stack your habits on top of that. Same like when you're increasing your activity, use that. Habit bundling is when you're just combining you combine a habit that you struggle with doing maybe in the gym with something you like doing. So I've used this before. Now let's say you weren't competent at weight training, okay? And we know competency is tied to motivation, because if something's very hard to do or you're not very confident doing it, you're less likely to do it. That's pretty common sense. So sometimes if someone's new to the gym, let's say, they mightn't feel comfortable in the weight room. No problem at all. I'll ask them, I'll say, what do you feel comfortable doing? How about you just come to the gym to get, after you've stacked your habit, you come to the gym, you're trying to get in that routine, so eventually you come there automatically. Let's say, Sean, I will comfortably walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes. No problem. Let's set the goal of come to the gym to get in the habit, and you're going to walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes, 3 days a week. Cool. We've done that. We're achieving our goal. What we can do, not only going to feel good with endorphins, they feel good because they ticked it off, but I can also say, look, when you're there, feel free to watch your favorite Netflix show that you would probably do anyway at home. So bring your iPad or sometimes the screen on the treadmill and watch your show. Now, especially if you don't like working out, suddenly you've added an even higher kind of positive reinforcement in there, because you now view that in a positive light, so you're more likely to do it. It's like when you're probably doing the cleaning, you listen to a podcast, and I do this when I'm doing my cardio, and I've actually have one of my handful of best transformations of my clients, Emma, who I've got on the podcast before, I've spoken about. She used this with her cardio, and like she used to binge watch Netflix on the stepper, and man, she transformed like a whole life, lost over 20 kilos, kept it off for years. So yeah, use that to your advantage for sure. And then let's just say you've gotten the habit of that and you feel confident, and then we can start like adding on weight training within that. So giving the person what they feel confident doing, because again, like sometimes I'll joke about gym, like Les Mills gym classes, probably not the most optimal from a training point of view, but then I also like have to always catch myself and say, well look, they feel confident doing that, they might feel confident in the gym, so they're more likely to do it, whereas if they left themselves their own devices, they probably wouldn't do it. So it's trying to find that happy medium between like what's really optimal from a scientific point of view, but then like what's optimal and realistic from what you'll actually do. So again, we can periodize, or we can, the same way we progress our nutrition, and we progress like our behaviors in the gym, like what we're doing in the gym. The hardest bit is just getting in the routine of getting there, and over time, if we do that, even if it's kind of quote unquote non-optimal stuff, that's still brilliant, because then we've just formed that routine, and over time you're going to come there and we can add in some weight training. And one of my good clients, Aoife, online, she's lost over 25 kilos. We did exactly this. She was a section of the gym that she felt comfortable doing. She did cardio for ages. I think she did some yoga classes in there. And then we've got progressed over 2 to 3 years to eventually she's really comfortable in the weight room. But that takes time. So after building that habit, then it's easier. Versus like setting yourself up for failure first. I'm going to not only try to add in this new behavior into my lifestyle, but I'm also then need to kind of think about what I'm doing in the gym. And oh shit, there's people looking at me, which when you start to go, you realize they're not. They're too narcissistic. They're looking at themselves. Same people, the trainers I was joking about to start. And then, yeah, we've progressed her the whole way up that she now trains in the weight room after never even thinking about doing when she first started. So going is the hard bit, and then we can progress what you're doing over time. Don't let like what is the perfect method get in the way of actually doing it. Like perfection is kind of what's a quote? Perfection is the enemy of like doing it, something like that. Anyway, you get the point. Then we can also look at it from a social point of view. Again, I've talked about the classes, and sometimes they mightn't be not optimally from a scientific point of view. Because like I see people doing pump class and they're lifting the same fucking weight they've lifted for the last 4 years. Well, you get stronger when you lift weight, so you need to add more to the bar. But and then we can look at CrossFit, which like everyone's kind of had a dig at, but every has goods and bad things. The great thing they've done, and like most group things, if they've created a social environment. So we human beings, especially in this lonely world where people are buying fucking Louis Vuitton for their character metaverse, it's a lonely world, as you can tell. So we need to be around other people. We need to form part of groups. It's why, again, going back to social media, I think the world's getting even more divided because everyone's in a certain group or camp like no other time before. But we want to be part of something. Yeah, as much as you may like being by yourself, we're born to be in tribes. So if you can do that from an activity point of view, amazing, because that is that's going to keep you accountable. But not only that, you're now coming to the gym because to see other people, okay? And that's normally better than working out. And when you get there, you're going to feel great after working out, and it's going to be a double whammy, and you can chat about this and talk about that, and you can maybe mentally unload, so you're going to feel mentally better. But yes, now it is hard to find really good group trainings, as we see in F45s going down the tube. That again, great from a social point of view, but from a training point of view, that's terrible. Fucking hate that. Sorry to any listeners that like own F45 boxes. Great from an investment point of view. Well, great, they were up to the point where I think they got too greedy, and then everyone tried to make too much money. But yeah, from an exercise point of view, terrible. But from a social point of view, very good. And marketing point of view, very good, I must say. But yes, hard to find good group trainings from a movement point of view. But I suppose, yeah, look, there is some better ones. There's some better ones. They're slowly starting to pop up. If you want to just like message me where you are in the world, I can make some recommendations. Or else you could use friends, co-workers, and then try to use that to glue together the habits. Or even if you do like a few classes a week combined with maybe like some training that's maybe more optimal from a muscle retention point of view, that's still going to be very good as well. Just don't do something that's a bit dangerous, like you're doing stupid plyometrics like F45 used to make people do, and you're jumping around, and it's too big of a jump at most people's fitness levels. Do like a sensible training if you can find. Or maybe, as I said, it's like some yoga, mobility, that kind of stuff's great because most people need that, and then combine that with some weight training for cardiovascular activity, and and you're not going to injure yourself doing that. It's also why like stuff outdoors, if we look at it, like running clubs, cycling clubs are brilliant. I've talked about the mammals before, middle-aged men in lycra. I always laugh, but again, they're going for the cycle super early. I don't know how they get up at that time. I just hear them going past on the road and cars beeping at them. But they're having a fucking post-workout coffee while I'm walking to work. But brilliant, because they've just cemented that, and now they're using it as a social thing, and we're social creatures and we move. That's one of the reasons that is going to really get us to move. That's one of the powerful aspects of being a human. It's going to tie exercise into belonging to a group. And they say if you are trying to adopt a certain behavior, what you need to do is you need to find a group where that behavior is the normal behavior. So if you're in a group of friends that never trains, all they do is drink and party, training is not the normal behavior. You're going to seem like the outsider. However, if you find a group where training is the normal behavior and you're kind of the outsider if you don't train, well, that kind of good amount of peer pressure is going to cement and it's going to force you to adopt these great habits. Okay, so it's going to find people where those behaviors people do already, and maybe try to stay away from ones that are more counterproductive habits. Because we've seen, even like in terms of relationships, not me personally, but I'm saying like studies, if one person becomes overweight, it's kind of contagious in a sense where you adopt the behaviors of the people you're around. Same with groups, same with friends as well. Other stuff I have here: find where the gym is very convenient. Don't be joining like gyms that are miles away. I think within 15 minutes I've heard. No longer than that, or else you're less likely to go. I would always recommend, if you aren't that competent with weight training but you want to do weight training or eventually do it, get a few sessions with a good trainer. Ideally, look for reviews, look for recommendations, because unfortunately they can be few and far between, but the good ones are always very good, just like in any industry, because that will give you the competency of being able to go away, be confident in what you're doing, which will give you that motivation that you're doing it right, and not scared that you're not doing it right, which is big thing where people talk about. Even myself, like for example, like I've hit the boxing bag before, and I thought it was good on it, but then I went to a trainer and realized I was doing it all wrong. So a few lessons with that allows you to practice better yourself. And then the last kind of point I have here, the last significant one, is finding a coach. If you're really struggling with it, accountability is massively powerful. Accountability can be the glue that will tie these habits together. And I'm saying this from a point where I've taken people, and other trainers have taken people that have hated training and vowed they would never step foot in the gym, to consistently training. And eventually, what's funny, after they might only come like if they're training with you at the start, if that person had the luxury of being able to afford it, until eventually like they become so confident and enjoy it so much, then they start to come on their own. It's very satisfying to see that. So if you can find someone that will keep you accountable, because again, it's just like your Monday morning meeting, you're more likely to do the work because there's a consequence if you don't do it. So as much as we're obviously driven, we're definitely more driven by reward, but having a little bit of negative consequence if you don't do it is good, just to keep you on your toes. If you could find a coach, I say if you can afford, without knowing your circumstances personally, most people can afford a few sessions. Coming from Ireland, it's always funny. people might go, Jesus, it's the fucking amount you charge for sessions, training sessions. But you'll see them on nights out, like spending quadruple that on rounds of drinks, and then they're like cutting back. Again, it comes back to where your priorities lie, blah blah, all that kind of stuff. But or even the same people buying the Louis Vuitton bag or fucking whatever they can afford in there, and that aspirational wealth, I think it's called, from a marketing point of view. One of my clients mentioned, where you're just trying to look rich, and then ironically, all trained people now worth an absolute fortune, and look, and just like shop from the basic Kmart, look like they don't have a penny. And again, the ironic thing, but most people can afford a few sessions. Let's be honest. You probably spend on like other rubbish that is only being counterproductive to your physical and mental health. So, if you be honest with yourself, you can definitely scrub a few pennies to get some sessions, and again, to get that investment of a long term, because again, you want to be fit and healthy and all this good stuff when you're older. You don't want to be just fucking it out and build of someone taking care of you because you can't move around because you never went to the gym and did your squats. So there you go. Hopefully there's a few hidden gems among the tangents in there. No, there is. You might have to go re-listen to it. But yeah, that is definitely my point of view from that, having coached it and then having seen it from a first-hand perspective. So wherever you are in your journey, the moment, whether you might have lost motivation, whether you're just finding it very hard, just take those things into account. And even if you just start training once a week, or even if it's not formally in a gym, as I said, even if you just start walking and use the example for walking, and you use your metrics for walking, like your resting heart rate and your fitness, and just use the same whatever form of activity you're going to use. Ideally, eventually you may progress at some point in time with some weight training, because that's definitely beneficial. But yeah, just see wherever you are at this point in time, whatever is most realistic for you to do, and then use these tips to be able to implement those things and to get consistent and to focus on the process. And trust me, eventually you start to train consistently, and even if you don't even want to look at your nutrition, over time you will want to start to eat better, because it's just a natural domino effect of all these other good habits. I've seen it time and time again. So take these tips into account. Let me know how you go. Most importantly, I can't wait to hear your feedback. Please like and share to the co-worker that keeps talking about how they're losing motivation, or the family member, or whatever it is. Give me a feedback, and I will speak to you all in the next episode.